How's it going, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you what I use and settings I use to get time lapses of the Sony A7III. Well, to get straight into it, this video is sort of a piggyback of my last video, which was a seamless loops. This is a little bit more in depth with a time lapse slash stuff you can turn a time lapse into a seamless loop. The things I would recommend when it comes to doing any time lapses is a wide angle lens. I'm currently using an 85mm f.8. It is a very tight lens. I would rather probably 50 mils and below, but for this video, I'm just going to be using my 85mm. Another thing I would recommend is a tripod. You can rest it on a table or a bag of some sorts, but a tripod's way more reliable and it's sort of just, it does its job a lot better than a lot of things or other things. So the first thing you want to do when it comes to your Sony is you want to, whatever setting you have your dial turned on your Sony, you want to turn it to the A. The A setting is the aperture setting, and what that means is that your camera will not touch the, electronically will not touch the aperture. It will change everything else but the aperture itself. So it will change the shutter speed first, and then I think secondly ISO, but I don't really think it does change the ISO, but mainly changes the shutter speed. You're still going to get really good photos out of this. Next is a file format. What you need to do is once you've changed it over to the A setting, you just want to click menu and go to camera one. Once you go to camera one, you want to go to your file format. I would recommend, if this is your first time lapse, to do a JPEG, or your first couple to do JPEGs, just for the reason it's a lot easier to edit and a lot less footage you have to deal, or a lot less data you have to deal with in post. And as well, you can do a lot more in one day and learn a lot more than before you're going into RAW. But for this, I'm going to use RAW for mine. I use RAW uncompressed. Then that's really the main thing I want to talk about when it came to file format. Next, you want to go to camera 1, page 4, and you'll see the second setting down below. That is your intervalometer setting. So after you click on that, it will bring up a menu: interval shooting, shooting start time, shooting interval, number of shots, and AE tracking sense. So you want to turn the interval shooting on, but as soon as you do this, if you click your shutter button, that means your time lapse settings will start. I go down, I'm going to start it at 3 seconds after it, because after you press your shutter button, that means 3 seconds after it, your camera will start taking photos towards the time lapse. Next, intervals. Interval shooting, I tend to do a 30-minute time lapse. I do every 10 seconds, it'll take one photo, and that comes up to around 33 minutes. In my opinion, you need at least 30 minutes, especially if you're doing something like a city or a sunrise, sunset, anything with clouds in it is really good. Good way to tell the time of a time lapse. Next, you go over to silent shoot, page 2. Silent shoot interval, I have that off just so I can audibly hear my camera's shutter going off, so I know it's still taking photos. If you're doing, I would recommend if you're doing inside, let's say like sort of like at an event or anything of like this inside with people around, and you don't want them to hear the shutter, I would turn that on. It just means that the shutter won't make a click noise, but I do like hearing that satisfying click noise. So after you've done all your settings, next thing you want to do is you want to go down to a location and then set up your tripod, turn on your camera, and just click that button and let it just sit there for 30 minutes or however long you got to set up, and let it do its thing. Alrighty, so once you came back from doing your time lapse, you want to come into a Lightroom. What you want to do is just edit one photo. So I'm just going to double click on this first one here. Go on. If you can edit it, you can do really whatever, but I'm just going to quickly just show you a little thing that I like doing. I'm just going to whack a quick little preset for an example for this one. I'm just going to put warm shadows. So this one's of edit, and I want to copy. If I've only edited one photo, instead of going through and editing 100 of the different photos, what you can do is come down and click copy at the bottom, check all, copy, go back to your library module up top, double click to get out of this one. You can see how this photo at the top here has a little plus and a minus. So what you can do is you hold Control or Command if you're on Apple and press A, it'll highlight everything. De-highlight the first one because you don't want to paste the settings back onto the first one. Right click on either of the ones that are highlighted Scroll down after you right click on any 1, 2 or 3 or whatever ones are highlighted, you want to go down to develop settings and you want to go paste settings. This will take a while depending on how beefy your computer is, but after that's happened you want to export them all. I'm going to put them all into Adobe. I'm going to show you quickly a little tip you can do when you're importing them to Adobe too. And now to export them all, you just want to press Control A again. Make sure every single one's highlighted. Make sure you don't de-highlight the first one. Go up to File, Export. Choose exactly where you want to, because there's going to be a lot of photos. You want to choose where you want to export it. I've already checked a file, export folder. I'm going to click Export. This as well will take a little bit depending on your computer, how beefy it is, because it is exporting. And if you did do RAW, it will take a little bit. Top left, I have 182 photos. And the little bar hasn't really moved that much, so it is going to take a while, but I'll be back when we're in Adobe and editing that footage. Alrighty, so once you're done exporting your photos and your computer's done running the hamster wheel inside of it and all the photos are done, you want to come into Adobe, start a new project, and I'm just going to use this folder called TL for time lapse. Come into it, and when you import your photos, you want to go towards where you exported all your photos. And before you export, there's a little thing I need to tell you. I need to find mine. So with Adobe, you can import every single photo individually, which still gets the job done, but Adobe sort of helps you a little bit. Depending on I think it's depending on your FPS of your timeline or sequence settings, it will make that many photos per second. So I've got 182 photos, and if you divide that by 24, I think it comes to 7.5, 182 divided by 24. So there should be 7.5 seconds of time lapse right here. So to do that, you want to click on where you exported your photos. And you want to click on the first photo, you want to click on image sequence here, and then open. So Adobe itself should get all the photos and make it into one little video for you. So I'll show you right here. It's imported. Oh, it was close, 7.1 seconds. So pretty close. And then I'm just gonna, if you've got not the most beefiest computer, I think I could recommend is pressing I on the start of the clip and pressing O if you want to see it in full view with no buffer. Go up to sequence, render in and out. This might take a little bit, but it means that you'll see it 1-to-1, so it won't buffer if you haven't got the fastest computer. And it is pretty nice seeing the work that you've done in real time and not have to worry about computer hardware. So once it's done, you should have a time lapse here, and it should look pretty good. I'm going to use this as an outro. It's pretty cool. To make it into a seamless loop, what you do is you just come to the middle of it. So this one is, how long is this? Again, it was 7.14. So you divide that by 2, so it's 307. Actually, I think I tend to do to make it a little bit more smoother. I come in probably about, I'd say a quarter of a second, or just a tiny bit. Because the front of it's normally always pretty rough. And then do the same thing on the back end, just cut off a tiny little bit. Go to the middle of that clip, cut it in half. Put the start of the clip at the back of it. So the start, I'm just gonna have this on loop so you can have a quick look. So the start of it is the middle of the clip, and the ending of it is sort of the middle. So the start of it is the middle and the ending is the middle. It's just the beginning and end in between next to each other on this little bit right here. So after you've done that, you want to come to effects, just type in a good old cross. You want to come to cross dissolve. You want to drag that on the middle of the clips, and then we'll quickly play this to show you what it can do. So it does sort of play back on itself, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the cross dissolve. I'm going to make it go for 1 second. And now I'm going to render in and out, just so I can see it, because I am using a lot of footage here on my timeline because I did shoot in RAW. So now you can go back and forth, and if you play that on playback, it will just keep going back on a seamless loop. Well, it's not really that seamless, is it? But you get the gist of it. You probably, depending on how seamless you want it, you turn it up. So let's make it 4 seconds. So Let's make it 4 seconds. I'm gonna go render in and out again. Let's see if this makes it more seamless. To make it more seamless, you just make that cross dissolve a lot more. Seeing that the cloud just appears in the middle is not really that realistic, is it? So I'm rendering this back out, and last but not least, hopefully this bad boy will be seamless. And there you go, and there you have it. Thank you for watching this tutorial if you made it this far. I did put a little bit of effort into this video, so if you did like it, give it a like, tell me how you feel about it. And if you want to see more tutorials like this in the near future, subscribe. Thank you for watching.